right, so we're going to get started. I just want to tell you now that we are recording this so that people who weren't able to join the session are able to see it later on if they want to. So I'm just going to kind of walk you through a pretty basic demo of Flipgrid just as an option for virtual learning. So I'm just going to mute you, Christina. Just so that we don't have any background noise. At the end, I'll leave some time for questions. So at that time, you guys can unmute yourselves and ask them at the end. So I'm going to present my screen and kind of walk through a demo of Flipgrid. While I'm doing that, I'm going to ask that you just watch and see what's going on rather than trying to play along on another screen so you don't miss something. And like I said, these will be recorded, so if you need to go back and rewatch, you can. Otherwise, there is that short little video that is available on the knowledge base in order for you to follow along should you need. So let me present my screen, and we will get started. All right, so you are going to learn a little bit about Flipgrid. So we're going to do how to access it and log in, how to create a grid, how to create a topic, how to share that with your students, and how to view their responses. So Flipgrid is accessible on flipgrid.com. Once you get here, if you've not been here before, you will need to sign up for an account. You might just have to put in like the school that you teach in, but most of the time you can just click on Educator Login, and then you'll just want to log in with Google. And once you are logged in, you are able to then create a grid for your classes and then create the topics that you're going to actually have your students talk about. So I would organize it like you're going to create a grid for a class, and then your topics are going to be the questions that you're going to ask. So whether you want to organize that reading versus writing, or you want to organize that period, however you want to organize your students, you would just go ahead and add a new grid, and then you can create the class that you want. You'll want to select the grid type school email. This will make sure that the kids have to log in with an https.us email account, and then just hit next, and then just make sure this says at https.us. If it doesn't, just type it in. And then you hit next, and that's it. That's your grid created. So now if I go to my grid, then I am very easily able to share it with my students. So in order to share it with your students, you would just click on Share. You can either copy this link and send it to them via email or through course pages if that's how you get information to them, or if you have a Google site, or if you're a Google Classroom user, you can share it right out to Google Classroom. The other thing I want to mention when you are on your grid is that you can add what's called a Copilot, so basically your co-teacher. So you have to just make sure that your Copilot already has a Flipgrid account, and then it would just be a matter of typing in their email address, and then you can send the invite out to them, and then they would be able to join in as your Copilot. They would get an email, and they would be able to accept your invitation as Copilot, and then they'll be able to see everything like you would from that point of view. Let me just remove Sue. Okay, so then the next thing is creating the topics. These are the discussion topics that you would put out to your students. So you'll click on Add New Topic, and then you can fill this out with the title, and this is where your question would go for the students, or your prompt, or whatever it is you wanted the students to respond to. You can choose how long the students have to respond, so all the way up to 5 minutes. And then you can just follow some of the other prompts to flush out your question. The great thing is you can record a video. So I'm just going to click this to access, and then I'll show you right here. So if you wanted to deliver a short lesson to your students, you would be able to do it right from your Flipgrid topic. And what's really cool is all these new features that are at the bottom. So for example, you can turn your screen into a whiteboard, and then you can write on your board, so that you could actually deliver lessons right to the students. You can clear it so that you can start again, do whatever you need to do for your students. Okay, you can turn it into a blackboard if that's better. You can change the color of your pen if you need to. So there's lots of options for that. And then the other thing that's really neat is you can actually add something, a picture or something along those lines for your students. So if you had a snippet of a worksheet, for example, you could put that right on your screen, and then you could use the pen tools and solve problems right on the screens for your student. These tools are accessible for your students as well. Okay, so if you needed to do that, you can just hit record and record your little intro, and that's what the students would see. The other option is if you had a video you wanted them to watch or anything else that you wanted to embed on that question, you could do that here. And when you're creating a topic, you will want to click on more options and just look through some of these. So for example, you might want to consider video moderation. This would mean that you would be the only person who would be able to see any video submissions from your students. This would be good if you were doing this as some sort of assessment or if you were doing any sort of music lesson or anything like that where you needed the students to play or sing that maybe you didn't want the whole entire class to hear their responses. So if you want that, you can go ahead and turn that on. The other option that Flipgrid has is student-to-student replies. This would be great if you wanted them to have a discussion. So if your subject is something that needs to be discussed within the class, then allow student-to-student replies, and your students will be able to listen to each other's responses and then also reply. And then at the end, you can give your students some options as far as video editing or putting a title or things like that. And then there's also an option here for you to put in some feedback should you want to use this for any type of assessment for your students. So basic feedback is what everybody gets. And custom feedback, if you had some particular grammar points that you were focusing on or anything like that, you could push that out to your kids that way. As soon as you're finished, you'll hit Create Topic. And then you'll notice that now, when I go back to my grid, I now have that topic that I just created. Sending this out to your students is the exact same as you would send your grid. You click on Share. You can push it out through Google Classroom, or you can copy that link. So let me just show you what that looks like from the student point of view. So because we are asking them to sign in with Google, they will need to do that. This is how it authenticates that they have an https.us email account. They see your grid here, and then they see their topic. You would put your question there. If you recorded a video or uploaded any media, they would see it right there. And for them to respond, you simply click on the plus. They would record their response, say whatever they want to say, and then take a selfie and submit their video. Okay, so then as the teacher, how you then view their responses. So once you have some responses in from your students, I just refresh this, you'll see that now I have a video. And so I'd be able to click on this and watch my students' videos. Okay, so that is how you handle Flipgrid. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now.